Today's question comes from Nemo on Noster. They write, can you show us a project you've worked on that you've had a lot of pride in, then give us an overview of how you went from idea to execution? It's a good question. And I've thought about it, and the project that comes to mind is the one that I just completed for the shop building that I'm building right now, as you can see. It's the front door, the sliding barn doors for the front of the barn. It's basically a barn what I'm building. And I've always wanted to build a shop, and I didn't want basically roll-up garage doors like basically like everyone else. The idea probably comes from my childhood watching watching New Yankee Workshop with Norm Abrams. That show had a barn door that rolled back, and that was Norm's shop. So that probably gave me the idea for it. How I went, that's the idea. And how I went from idea to execution is you got to ask yourself certain questions when you're woodworking. First off, where's it going to be? And that was my first big question, is it's going to be outside. It's going to be an exterior woodworking project. So you got to build it with that in mind, and that foremost in your mind. If it's interior, you're going to treat it different. You're going to use different wood. You're going to use different glue, construction techniques, everything. So this is an exterior project. It's going to be outside in the weather constantly for years. So, and this is one of the biggest door projects I've ever done. So the first question I had was what kind of material. I chose Douglas fir. There's probably better materials, wood materials out there that would handle the weather better. However, Doug fir is a decent exterior wood. I was going to use the proper exterior finishes, so I wasn't too concerned about using like cedar or cypress or any other kind of exterior type wood. Doug fir was good. However, in my area, Doug fir is not readily available from the sawmill or the lumber yard. So the only way I could get it would be from just like Lowe's or the lumber yard, as in building materials. 2x4, 2x6, 2x8, that kind of material. So they're pretty good size, so I'd have to buy 2 pieces, mill them on the planer, and then glue them together as a laminate, which is fine. That would provide some stability in the weather. So I chose Doug fir, and I went and bought my materials. I went and hand-picked it. It's okay to buy, wood as in 2x4s and stuff. Just bear in mind that there's different levels of wood in construction. There's a wider wood that is just like a really just kind of utilitarian pine. And it's good for certain things, not good for exterior. And then there's the more orangey pinky wood, and that would usually use your Doug fir, and Doug fir is a little bit more stable. So I chose that, and then my next problem was to basically get the dimensions. So the only time I really ever have something drawn out on CAD or whatever is when I need to get proportions right or dimensions right. And so I CAD'ed the main structure of it out on on a two-dimensional CAD program that I have. So I got that. And then the next thing you need to solve is how you're going to join it. Do the joinery. It's going to be, these doors are going to be out in the weather, so you need a joint that's both maximally glued together and then also have a lot of mechanical fastening to them. So I chose a half lap joint, which is a pretty basic joint, and bolted together. So I chose my joints, and I was able to mill out and glue up and then remill my structural parts of the door. So once I figured that out, I needed to, well, before that, I needed to choose a glue to be able to do the laminate part. So the glue I chose had to be a waterproof glue first and foremost, and it had to be really durable, a really weatherproof glue. So the glue I chose was a polyurethane glue, known as by a lot of people as Gorilla Glue, or there's other names out there. It's a foaming glue, so you want to always use it where you mill it later or sand it later, because it'll foam out and it'll cause problems with your finish unless you mill it off. So I chose a polyurethane glue and got everything glued together, milled out my framing, and then did all my joinery, started gluing up the structure. Now, throughout all of this, I'm not solving every single problem before I come to it. A lot of times I will make something, but I won't plan out everything, every little detail. A lot of things you can solve as you're going along. Some things you can't, some things you can. Experience will tell you what you can and can't overlook. So once I got the structure all glued up, I was able to sand it and then get ready for my finishing. Now, the finishing is probably the most important part of any project, but especially an exterior project that you want to last for years. The finish that I chose was a high quality exterior oil-based varnish that they use in the marine world for boats and stuff. Gloss finished, and a really good, nice, very waterproof finish is what it turned out to be. So I did all that, and then once it was all finished up, I was able to put on the hardware and hang them. I hung them before anything else just to get them up off the tables or floor and be able to work on them a little better, because they are heavy. And so I got them hung up on the rails, and then started filling in the lower portion with planking. Now the planking I wanted to be weatherproof, so I have a little tongue and groove in between each one, and that causes a little bit of it blocks the airspace, so there won't be air bleeding through each one of the planks. Then I did all the trimming and around that, and then at the very last, most recently, is I had a glass company come in and do the window at the top. I still have to trim out the window, but for the most part, the doors are pretty much complete. I just have a few minor details as far as weather stripping and, little button-up details, mostly weatherproofing and a little bit of, I don't know if I'll put in a divided light at the top where the glass is or not. I'm not sure. So anyway, that's a little bit into my thinking on how I go about a project. And most projects are that way. You got to think about your materials, you got to think about the glue that you use, the finish. You know, your finish will dictate your materials. You know, if it's paint, you can use not so pretty wood, or wood that's more paintable. So, and then don't feel, you know, if you're like me, don't worry about planning out every detail, because you'll solve them as you go along. So anyway, that's a little bit into the background of probably my most recent project. And I'm very proud of them. Very nice looking for the front of my shop. So anyway, thank you very much for your question, and we'll talk to you later.